Hey there riders, Moto, Journo, Kris here today, and I have got the Competition Werkes mid-pipe delete here, as you can hopefully see. And what I'm going to be doing is fitting it to my Svartpilen 401. This is the perfect option for those who don't want to go a full pipe. I think a full pipe is probably $600 to $800 Australian dollars, maybe a little bit cheaper in other countries, up to the $1,000 mark just for a slip-on. That is pretty crazy money, especially, you know, when the bike only cost me $7,000. All up in the first place. I did not want to invest that kind of money in this bike, even though having scratched up the exhaust a bit is always a good excuse to replace that standard exhaust, which the bike is very quiet. It's got a little bit of note to it, but not at all inspiring. The Competition Werkes was under 300 bucks. You can find like knockoffs of these for much, much cheaper online. I wanted to try a proper one because I really just didn't want to stuff around. I've had really bad experiences with AliExpress and I didn't really want to repeat that. So I went with an Australian Competition Werkes vendor who had it in stock, sent it out really, really quickly. The finish quality on it's really nice. Hopefully it all fits and everything works well, because that's the main thing. And hopefully it's an easy fitment, which we'll be seeing how it goes now. Now, as far as what tools we need, 12mm socket, very important. On top of that, a 5mm hex key, obviously the socket here, and apart from that, a 13mm spanner. Okay, so just here under the bike, doesn't really need to be super loose, but it's going to make the job a little bit easier. Then we've got the secondary one back here, which is obviously onto the muffler. I did actually loosen these already. So hopefully you can see here, this is the top of the collector. Obviously it is painted black. It's got the KTM part number on it because they all share the same engines essentially. And it's right near the shock. That's the bolt there. There's one on the other side, so that's something to keep in mind. And we're just going to loosen those off. It looks like it's a captive bolt, so you only have to do the one side. And just as a point of reference, that's an 8mm. You probably can't see too well, but exactly the same deal on the other side. Okay, so I think my camera just missed recording that last part, but essentially speaking, bolt, nut, 2 washers, running through here. As you can see, it's run off the pillion carrier, and we're going to be reusing the exhaust. That's the big advantage of this system, or this like mid-pipe delete, in that I don't have to spend all that extra money. And basically, I've just pulled the exhaust off. Really, really simple. And that's slid off pretty easily. And hopefully we'll be able to reuse all the stock parts, because I might be in a little bit of trouble otherwise. And what we've also got, which I didn't notice until now, which I probably should have read the instructions, but you know, is another bolt in here, which looks like a 12. It is a 12. I think we just want to extender on that one. I was hoping removing the header would not be necessary, however, there's just not enough clearance really. To get the mid-pipe off with this in place, which is a real pain. The 2 bolts for this one. Okay, so collector is still obviously hanging in there precariously. That is, I'm pretty sure, the cat. So we're not removing that. That is going to stay in place. And I think there's one further up the exhaust as well. So if you're concerned about kind of that side of things, you don't need to be, because you're still retaining both those cats. Okay, so I am trying to get this thing out and it is really starting to annoy me. The spacer pipe basically is so tight that it clips in and it just does not want to come out, and I'm having to really kind of force it, which really shouldn't be the case. And there was nothing really about it in the instructions, which kind of annoys me as well, because if something requires a bit of force to get out, I feel like, you know, it should be mentioned. And this is why a slip-on exhaust is a fairly popular option, because you just slip it on. Okay, riders, we've got this damn thing out. Now, what really made this difficult is this thing here in the middle, which seemed to be pressed in between the two pieces of essentially frame. They're not frame, but like the two ends that it bolts through. It was just so hard to get out. It really just was putting all, you know, mechanical sympathy to the side and just banging it until it came loose. Anyway, I should say, before I put this thing away, it is enormous, heavy, and be glad to get rid of it. Loosening that exhaust gasket, which needs to be reused in the Competition Werkes version, which, as you can see here, it should just fit inside as far as I know. Okay, so I have put the header very loosely in place, and then as you can see here, I've used the gasket from the stock exhaust and I've just kind of pushed that in. It was a very, very tight fit, so don't expect that to be an easy job. And that's it flush now, and hopefully we'll be able to get this on without it being too difficult. I'm not holding my breath there. Okay, riders, we've got the header back on. As you can see here, the two bolts are very lightly done up, and that's quite loose. As you can see here, we've got the mid pipe in place now, but no muffler put on, and the cross piece, the spacer, which goes in here somewhere where you can see that support is, that is back in place. That was a real pain to get out. I had to like basically force it out because it was squeezed between the two ends of where it's bolted through, and it was just pure brute force. And it was similar getting it back in, a little bit easier, but a little bit of hammer work and stuff like that, which I wouldn't have thought would be necessary, but it's now also very loosely done up. The clamp here is back on the exhaust, as you can see here, and it's just a matter of putting the stock muffler back on. Okay, so this is connecting back on. Obviously we're using the stock clamp, and it does of course still have inside the exhaust the sleeve, or whatever you want to call it, which makes sure that we've got a nice exhaust seal from front to rear. The fact that nothing is really done up tight is making that a little more challenging. It's working. I've also got to get it lined up at the back here, which to me looks like there's a little let's assume that's good. Let's see if we can get the rear exhaust support bolt in place. Okay, so we've now got, as you can see here, the exhaust on, which is great. So it's connected on, it isn't tightened at this clamp yet. We've got the rear exhaust support bolt as well, also in. So all the bolts are now in place. They just need to be tightened up and we should be good to go unless I've stuffed something up. Okay, we've tightened up all the bolts and now following the final instruction, which is to wipe this down with WD-40, I think they said, or similar, so you get a uniform colour as it colours up from the temperature. Okay, riders, so that should give you a bit of an idea of just how much space we have cleared up in there. You can see the new mid-pipe. You can actually see how close it is to the side stand switch there as well, but everything seems okay aligned as far as the exhaust, which is, to me, probably the more important thing. So we'll see how this goes and hope for the best.